Welcome back. Why can't everyone just live in peace? Indeed, they are the wisest words to start with. What happened to those old stories of Oyashiro-sama that I heard from Takano-san? Man and demon joined hands and, lived together in harmony. Didn't Oyashiro-sama remain in this world to watch over that? It's a fairy tale. I mean, that even if those people and the demons were real, the Oyashiro-sama who mediated between them wasn't. Is that why Oyashiro-sama's curse happens? A cool gust of wind blows in from outside, fluttering Mion's long, beautifully clear hair. I don't think I've ever heard hair described as clear, but okay. Mion kept her refreshing smile without answering, and didn't even change her expression, but even that became a silent answer. So that Hinamizawa village might once more be like Onigafuchi village, so that we may again be a sacred existence worthy of worship. That was the earnest wish of our ancestors in Onigafuchi, and the mission of those who inherit the demon in the Sonozaki main family. Those who inherit the demon? For generations, the Sonozaki family has had a custom of including the character for demon in the leaders' names. If you write out my name on your hand, it should appear plain as day. I trace out the word Meon on the palm of my hand. Oh, she's right. The character for demon is in there. Not only in my name either. The demon is engraved on my body as well. Yes, show us the tattoo. When she said that, she quietly rose and began to lay her hand on her clothing. That is the strangest way to describe that. Why would you say it that way? Lay her hand on her clothing. It's okay, Mi-chan. You don't need to show us, okay? No, I want to see the tattoo. Thank you. No, I want to see it. Just show me the tattoo, the picture of the tattoo. I just want to see it. It looks cool. I want to see it. With just that exchange, I guessed what she meant. Most likely, somewhere on her body, there was a permanent seal such as a tattoo or marking that proved she inherited the demon. Mion didn't sit back down. She smoothly opened the paper door onto the porch. A refreshing breeze began to cleanse the damp air filling the room. Damp. Mion quietly gazed out at the wide yard for quite a while. On her shoulders was something I could never imagine the normal Mion carrying. It was the heavy, truly heavy history of Hinamizawa, of Onigafuchi, weighing down on them. What kind of words could I possibly say to a Mion like that? Nena wasn't saying anything to her either. Only the voices of the cicadas drowned out the silence. At last, after a long period of nothing, Mion murmured, "The serial incidents happening over the past 5 years. I was directly related to some of them, and indirectly to others. Some were not the Sonozaki family, but were rather related to the others, the Kimiyoshi family and the Furude family. I think I was at the center of all of them." She said it all without turning around, with her back to us. At some point, her tone of voice had gone back to being the Mion we knew. "I have faith in what I've done, and I don't feel any guilt. If I did, perhaps it would be that I will have to leave the stage before the heir is decided." Huh? If I am caught and tried in a court of law, then I suppose that's how it works nowadays. Being able to retire with Hinamizawa at the most peaceful it's been in 100 years could be the happiest thing that's ever happened to any of the Sonozaki leaders of past generations. Mion leaned a shoulder against the paper door, then slid down it and flopped on the ground. Same. Flop. It was an act of such resignation that just seeing it made me hurt inside. The numerous terrible crimes Mion had been a part of suddenly began to fade from my mind. Hey, Mion, I don't care what happens after this. Can't you just try to struggle as much as you can? Try to run away? As soon as I began to think that way, Nena's ringing voice filled the room. "But Rika-chan and Satoko-chan..." You killed them, didn't you, Mi-chan? It's a bit horrifying that she's asking this question with a big smile on her face. The sharp points of her words stabbed into my chest despite not being directed at me. I'm not saying that it's okay if you killed other people. Regardless, Mi-chan, you killed Rika-chan and Satoko-chan. Nena's words were more biting than any I'd ever heard. Even now that we knew all the heavy history pressing down on Mion's shoulders, she had criticized her for killing our friends. I don't know. I think if someone kills your friends, you probably have a right to criticize them. I don't think Nena is in the wrong here. Just saying. Just as I bear the duty of the Sonozaki family, Rika-chan bore the duty of the Furude family. That duty was to protect the ritual storehouse. My chest tightened. I learned around last year that Rika-chan had said something about it. The bars on the storehouse door were too heavy for her and she wanted to change them to a simpler lock and key. Even the priest before her had complained about it being heavy. He was very aware of how hard it was for Rika-chan. I will make sure to guard it, so I want to replace the lock with something lighter. I replied on the behalf of the Sonozaki family leader. Ever since the string of freak death incidents, there seem to be people who are insolent towards Oyashiro-sama, so you shouldn't replace the lock with a simpler one. That said, the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, Old Man Kimiyoshi, he... If it's that difficult for you, Rika-chan, then I think it's okay to replace the lock, he said. The very fact that it was locked with a key was an indication of it being somewhere you mustn't enter. There's nobody bad enough to break through it and go inside, he said. Even if we were alike as leaders, I couldn't find it in me to argue with Old Man Kimiyoshi since I owed him so much. In the end, we decided to change out the lock on the storehouse and switched it to a really cheap and light padlock. I mean, why couldn't you change it to an expensive padlock? I don't think she's that weak. She can still open a padlock. Old man, is this really all right? Nana says that, if possible, we should keep the lock the same. It'll be all right. You're quite the worrywart. If something happens, this old man will take all the responsibility. Do you promise? You mean that you will take responsibility as the leader of the Kimiyoshi family, right? You should be well aware of how sacred the things inside really are. It's okay. There aren't any bad cats in Hinamizawa. Bad cats. Who would open the lock and break in? Meow, meow. Indeed. Oh, sobs escaped from my mouth. I'm not sure that's how I would type sobs out, but okay. Oh, something hot and wet, dripped down in spades and fell onto the tatami mat. Why would you describe it that way? Something hot and wet. Ew, moist. I had already heard of the thieves entering the ritual storehouse during the Watanagashi festival. There were 4 of them. We decided to act within the day. At the same time, we needed to demand that the ones who allowed the thieves to break in, Rika-chan of the Furude family, and Old Man Kimiyoshi, take responsibility. My tears dripped and dropped. Indeed. Dripped and dropped. Until just now, I had decided that it was Mion's fault that she killed Rika-chan and the others. That was wrong. The one who killed them wasn't Mion. It was me! Kono Keiichi da! I might as well have killed them. Keiichi-kun. I had a chance to stop this tragedy from happening, and yet I didn't. Cheap curiosity got the better of me, and I didn't. If at the time I had stopped us from sneaking into the ritual storehouse, Rika-chan and the others wouldn't have had to die. If I had, then nothing would have happened. We would be spending our days having lots of fun like we always did. I was an idiot. If by shedding tears I could take it all back, then I would have filled up the room with them. However, such a meager act wouldn't be enough to redeem myself for the crime I've committed. This music is very dramatic. Kei-chan, you're not at fault. Mion gently began to speak to me as if trying to reason with me. As the leader of the Sonozaki family, I needed to act. But given the history of the Sonozaki family, thinking about it now, it's no big deal. Maybe I should have saved my friends, even if it meant casting all that aside. I yielded to it, and that's why I killed those two. I, Mion Sonozaki, and nobody else, killed them. I had hundreds of chances to stop it, but I didn't stop. I gave in to the easy role that was handed to me and abandoned all thought of fighting for my friends. So this is my crime. I killed them. Mion Sonozaki, with these hands. Killed them, and nothing whatsoever changed. Nothing. Her masochistic laughter was sad. Same. Especially because Mion boasted in club that she would turn the tables on whatever predicaments presented themselves. It was so painful. Still, Mi-chan, you saved one person of your own volition? Eh? As I looked at her surprised, Lena stuck her finger right at my forehead. You left Keiichi-kun alive. As strong as you are, Mi-chan, it would have been no trouble for you, but you didn't kill him. That's right. Mion was so cunning that nobody could stand up to her, even in our club. If she had seriously tried to kill me, I would have been dealt with on the very first night. So many people had been sacrificed, but I was always left out in the cold. When did I first realize it? Even though people were disappearing one after the other, for some reason I had this vague belief that only I would be left alive. Why didn't I kill him? As a demon, I can't even begin to guess. Maybe Mion had some reason she didn't want to kill you. What is that supposed to mean? Shh. Mion put a finger to her lips to say that Lena didn't need to talk. Is Oishi waiting outside? Yes. Any way out? No. They said they have the place surrounded. It seemed like they called a lot of cars over the radio. I think they have your entire property surrounded. Mion fell silent. Lena's merciless words felt cruel. But they weren't meant to be. Maybe they were trying to lessen her good friend's pain, if only by a little. Maybe they were considerate, like she was trying to help. Please, turn yourself in. Mion didn't open her mouth, but she smiled just a little. We'll go with you. We'll never leave a friend by herself. Are we all just, casually forgetting that she killed two of our other friends? Crying children and Lena are the only things I can't beat. Ha 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 ha. She rose, scratching her head. Her face had returned entirely to that of the usual Mion. I'm well aware of how serious my own crimes are. Even if they accept me turning myself in, I'll probably never be able to come back here. I couldn't say anything. The number of deaths Mion was involved in was just too large. She's been a busy teenager. So much so that maybe recommending that she turn herself in was, in a way, extremely cruel. So, I'd like you to hear one last selfish request. What is it? 30 minutes is fine. Just let me have some time alone with Kei-chan. Huh? My name suddenly came up and it looked like I was the only one surprised about that. Keiichi-kun? Is that okay with you? Yes, just let me have 30 minutes alone with the murderer. That sounds absolutely great. If you don't want to, then I won't make you. You're right. It's okay if you don't want to. After all, I'm a demon. This is the strangest conversation. And Kei-chan is a bona fide human who moved here from somewhere else. For us to be compatible, as long as Oyashiro-sama doesn't exist to mediate, simply isn't possible. There was no reason for me to hesitate. I mean, there are plenty of reasons. Mion had been engulfed by heavy, unopposable tradition. We're literally just ignoring murders. Okay. Right now, the duty of handling this had fallen to me and me alone. In fact, with me cornered, it would have been okay for her to blame me. However, Meon didn't say one word of blame. Far from it, I was guilty of the same crime, and she let me go. Amidst the fate she could not oppose, she saved me alone. I didn't know whether I should be thankful for that. Thinking upon it now, I didn't know how much easier it would be if I were to be granted the same punishment as Rika-chan and the others. The only thing I knew for sure was that I had an equal duty to bear the sins that Meon shouldered. Not really, but okay. So when it came to Meon's last request, there was no reason for me to hesitate. I mean, there are plenty of reasons. They're all dead. Sure, it's fine. Thank you. I'd like to thank you too, Keiichi-kun. Lena stood up. It looked like she would keep her promise with Meon and leave. Ah, it's fine, Lena. You can wait right here. I want to go around the yard with Kei-chan. If you're bored, you can go to my room. You can read any manga you like. Oh, sweet. Ah, and if there are any volumes you like, you might as well take them. I don't want to. Mi-chan's books belong to Mi-chan. I don't want the goods of a murderer. Lena couldn't bring them back home with her so freely. You're such a good kid. Only at times like this. Excuse me? Mion took Lena's head and rubbed it violently like I always did. Huh, that's a weird sentence. Okay, let's go, Kei-chan. I began to walk after Mion, who headed for the hallway, when Lena silently stopped me. Take care of Mi-chan. Excuse me, she's the murderer. Yeah, Mi-chan really does believe she won't ever be able to come back. Again, we're casually forgetting that she murdered several people. I didn't know much about laws, but with as many deaths as she'd been involved in, the chances of her escaping a heavy punishment seemed non-existent. Watch out so that you don't make her lose her temper, okay? Mion might not surrender herself to justice, so I might have to put an end to it myself. Good luck. Lena had already thought that far ahead. Right. I won't let that happen. Lena rubbed at her tears, which had fallen without me noticing them. Okay, then go after her. I nodded and followed Mion, who had disappeared out the front door. I could clearly hear Lena sobbing from the other side of the paper door. Why was Mi-chan made a successor to demons? Maybe it just had to happen that way. But it's just so awful. Indeed. Something hot burned down my cheeks. They were my tears. Yes, we've heard about your tears many times. They are hot and moist. I fiercely wiped them away. This was the last of my time I could offer to Mion, so I absolutely didn't want to let her see my tears during it. Mion was already waiting outside the front door. Whoop. Sorry about that. I put on my shoes, tapped my toes against the floor a few times. What? And then left, and Mion timidly came over. Why is she turning all red at a time like this? Can I hold your arm? It was such a modest request. I don't mind. With my permission, her face lit up with glee, like a child being given a toy, and took my arm. Thanks for making it weird. Do you get kind of nervous with your arm through mine? You're not thinking, for example, that I'd suddenly put you in a world-class joint lock or anything? You two say the same things. I don't think that, at all. Back when nothing had gone wrong yet, during those nostalgic days of the bustling commotion at Angel Mort, I counted back and was amazed. It had only been 1 week ago. For me, it feels like it was 1 year ago. I had been arm in arm with Shion then too. Indeed. Linking arms with Mion like this really reminded me that they were twins. How much strength they put into it, the sensation of their arms, their warmth and the blood flowing. I could feel that their living sensations were all exactly the same. Ha ha ha. I think Shion liked you, Kei-chan. I see. Indeed, that is certainly a response to that. If this were a regular conversation, I might have jumped back red in the face. I think she liked you. I see. Right now, though, no matter what I heard, my mind remained at peace. Ooh. Mion and Shion, you got along well, didn't you? Like, no. What? They've spent this entire novel talking about how they didn't get along. Well, I wonder. Kei-chan, do you think your right hand and left hand get along? I mean, why wouldn't they? What? Hello? Huh? My right hand and left hand, I don't think you could describe them as getting along or not. I mean, generally you need both hands to do things, so like if they don't get along, you don't do anything. So yeah, my left hand and my right hand get along perfectly swell. That's how our relationship is. You can't measure it by the scale of how well we get along. That didn't sound like it meant they got along really well. Indeed, this is a conversation. For example, one of your hands is dominant, so there will always be a better hand. If you only had one oven mitt, you would put it on your dominant hand without thinking, right? I mean, not necessarily. If I'm using one hand for something, then it goes on the other hand. Hello? I think maybe it was like that for us. That doesn't mean, though, that anyone would be okay with losing their left hand. It's that kind of unexplainable relationship. I think that maybe you lived too close together and just stopped being able to see it, but I think that means you get along really well. I'm an only child, so the day before the festival, I was really jealous of when you and Shion were messing around with each other. I think you're jealous of something that doesn't exist. Yes, we twins used to have a lot of fun playing tricks on people, but now that we have such distinctly different personalities, it just gets in the way. Were they cursed, or were they self-conscious? That is exactly the question you would ask there. Their relationship was hard to understand for an outsider. Maybe that wasn't an issue someone like me should intrude on. Just staying silent and nodding gently was the best way to advance the conversation. Meon passed through the wide yard and invited me into the big desolate forest we'd seen on the way in. Nah, I want a garden that big. Such a big forest was part of their property, I couldn't help but feel small. It's huge! Oh, that's what she said. You must have had a great time playing in it as kids, huh? Indeed, Meon seemed to be silently reminiscing. I couldn't look into her mind, but she was probably thinking back to those fun days when they played as sisters without any antagonism. Every time the wind blew, it caressed the treetops and the leaves, making a swishing, murmuring sound. Meon remained silent for a long time, thinking back on her younger sister, whom she had gotten rid of with her own hands. There was no need for me to get a word in. Just walking like this, arm in arm, was enough. Meon suddenly stopped and turned. Shion is still alive. Dun dun dun. Really? Meon took a hard look into my eyes, then nodded quietly. Yeah. I'd been thinking to give her the most horrible death of all, so I had her locked up. I never did think of a good way to do it, though. Meon sounded as though she hated Shion, but also, deep down, she didn't completely detest her. So I took my other hand and rustled Meon's hair with it. Is it just me, or is all of this really weird? Okay, so from Keiichi's perspective, this person that he's talking to has murdered a lot of people, and he's like, oh, you, let me rustle your hair as you're talking to me about killing your twin. Like, hello? Am I the only one who finds this really, really not okay? Not normal? Even for a visual novel? It's kind of weird. Meon didn't only save me, she saved Shion too by locking her in a cage. Meon may have become a demon and led many people to their death. She might be a murderer, but, hear me out, but she fought against it and was able to save 2 people. It's okay, guys. She didn't kill everybody. It's okay. Why? As I petted Mion, why are you making me read those words today? That is terrible. She narrowed her eyes in an entranced smile. I'm sorry, this is stupid. And untangled her arm from mine. Then Mion quietly said, "Didnt. Come with me. I want you to see all of my sins." I mean, that's a weird way of describing it. But okay. Although, Kei-chan, it might be the worst thing you've ever seen. I could sense it. Ooh. There I would probably find all the sacrifices up until now. Ooh, it's going to be smelly. Looking at them would mean accepting Rika-chan and Satoko's deaths, as well as accepting that my best friend had done it. Again, I find this whole thing very strange. It's already happened and it's in the past. You can choose not to look, Kei-chan. If you don't want to, then wait here. I will personally end everything. I was taken aback by how ominous that sounded. I remembered what Lena had told me. Mion might not surrender herself to justice, but instead choose to put an end to things herself. I couldn't leave her on her own. Besides, I agreed to her last request, didn't I? Even if it was hard for me to accept, I'll still do it. Even if I avoided looking, it was something that had already happened. It doesn't matter what I see. Yes, Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. I don't know. Like, if one of my friends killed several people, I don't think we're friends anymore. Sorry. That won't change. Yeah, it will, sorry. It never will. The treetops softly swayed in the wind. You and Lena both. Why do you only get really cool at times like this? Normally I'd say something rude right back at her, evading the question, but today I didn't. I just answered with a smile. At last, Mion started walking. Into the thick forest, into the deepest part. After following a thin path that looked like an animal trail for a while, we finally came across a steep incline with a tunnel that reminded me of a coal mine or bomb shelter. We were surrounded by shallow hills. It had been created in a spot not visible from the outside. There were many silhouettes of crows in the trees here and there. The abnormal odor I'd been smelling for a while was doubtlessly escaping from inside this place. Ew. I told you they'd be rotting. If you want to turn back, now's your chance. I don't know what kind of person Mion Sonozaki is to you, but if you go inside, that Mion will probably... ... She won't change. I'll say it as many times as I need to. Mion Sonozaki is the best friend I could ever have. I'm sorry, if you kill people, I'm ditching you immediately. I clenched my fists. Inside there was probably a sight beyond anything I could imagine. If I let my guard down, I might end up vomiting. Even so, I'll endure it. I'll overcome this pain and this suffering. It will never change that Mion is my greatest friend. I am nothing more than a demon, so I don't understand human feelings anymore. Okay. I don't know, this is getting silly. I have a feeling, though, that I know why Mion fell in love with you. Don't say that like it's not related to you. You're Mion. Is he finally catching on? You're not a demon. You're a human with human blood, and you're my friend. Mion made a gesture like she was wiping tears from her eyes, then placed a hand on the big door of the tunnel entrance. The lock on it was dauntingly strong-looking. It seemed to demand the appropriate resolution from whoever would enter, just like the ritual storehouse. When the double doors opened, a stifling, rotten air and a bunch of winged insects came rushing out. I remembered accidentally killing a hermit crab a long time ago by leaving its tank out on the porch, and how intense the odor it left was. If that was the smell of a corpse, then that's certainly what this smelled like. Inside it was pitch black, but Meon flicked a switch that turned on a light bulb, illuminating the interior. The path turned into a series of intricate wooden tunnels. We passed spaces that looked like they were for storage. We passed places that looked like someone had lived there. All of this indicated that it had been used as a bomb shelter and stockpile during the war. It didn't give, an impression of a dugout bomb shelter that had just been left there, though. There was a sense of dignity, as though this were a second Sonozaki house constructed underground. Despite being in pitch darkness below the ground, the voices of the cicadas were entering through an air hole somewhere, giving it a very mysterious feel. All right, we're going to end this one right here. We are finally about to enter the underground. I've been waiting all visual novel for this part. Finally, 20,000 hours later, we are here. Come back next week and let's find out what's in the underground at the Sonozaki house. I'll see you guys then. See ya.